Story 1 by F.W. What would you do if you were completely alone in a massive century-old mansion and someone started knocking on your bedroom door at night? It was a few years back when I was still living with my parents during my last couple of years before college. My parents had just bought a new home and moved us in. It was much farther from the city, tucked deep in the woods, and to me, it felt like a mansion. Even though there were just 3 of us, they justified the size because we had relatives visiting often. That week, my parents flew out to see family and offered me to come along, but I stayed behind to avoid missing school. I quickly realized I hated being alone in this house. It was too big, with endless hallways and empty rooms. Built over a century ago, it had an eerie atmosphere that I could never quite shake. For 2 days, nothing unusual happened. I went to school, hung out with friends, and came home late. But on the 3rd evening, as soon as I stepped upstairs, something felt off. One of the spare bedroom doors was wide open. I usually notice these things because open doors made the house feel unsettling. I peeked inside, just a bed and some furniture, nothing else. I closed the door and walked the house briefly, seeing nothing strange. Trying to brush it off, I went to my room to relax, but that uneasy feeling lingered. About an hour later, I got hungry and went downstairs. While cooking in the dimly lit kitchen, I kept feeling like something was moving in the far living room, though every glance showed nothing. When I returned upstairs with my food, the same spare room door was open again. This time, my entire body froze. My gut screamed something wasn't right. I checked the room again, no signs of anyone being there. I locked my bedroom door and texted my parents, but they had never noticed anything unusual. Just minutes later, while eating on my bed, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I muted the TV, listening intently, then heard a thump right outside my door. My heart pounded. A moment of silence passed, and then soft, slow knocks tapped on my door. Trying to sound brave, I shouted that I'd called the cops. The response? 3 more deliberate knocks, and a chilling metallic scratch along the wood. By the time police arrived, no one was there. Only a knife mark carved deep into my door. With dozens of old windows and weak locks, the police couldn't figure out how anyone got inside. Even after my parents rushed home, I never felt safe again. Every hallway felt alive with unseen eyes watching me. 1 week later, while looking out a window at night, I swore I saw a figure standing in the woods. It could have been a shadow, but I wasn't taking chances. My parents sold the house months later. To this day, no one knows who or what was stalking me in that century-old mansion. Story 2 by John O. He thought it was just a late-night pizza delivery until he realized the man at his door had no pizza and was already inside his home. It was a normal Friday night. I lived alone in a small suburban house, working an hour away in the city. After a long week, I wanted nothing more than to game, relax, and sleep in. After a shower and a few beers, I settled on the couch. Feeling hungry, I ordered pizza through an app and watched YouTube while I waited. After 45 minutes, still no delivery text. The app simply said there was a delay, but I wasn't too bothered. Slowly, I dozed off. I woke up to repeated doorbell rings. Half asleep and tipsy, I rushed to the door expecting pizza, but the man standing there had no pizza boxes, no uniform, just a gray hoodie and dark jeans. Confused, I asked how much I owed for the pizza. The man just smiled strangely, saying the pizzas were still on the way. His answer made no sense, but in my tired state, I muttered, "Okay," and shut the door. Something about it nagged at me, but I convinced myself I was overthinking. I went back to YouTube, fell asleep again, and woke to a soft clicking sound. Checking my phone, I froze. It was 4 a.m. The pizza shop had canceled the order hours ago. I walked to the front door and noticed it was already unlocked. Opening it, I saw nothing but an empty, quiet street. Then a horrifying realization hit me. The clicking sound was my front door closing earlier. That man had pretended to be a delivery driver. He likely heard me not locking the door, then slipped inside while I was half asleep. My instincts screamed to run. I crept toward my phone but froze when I heard movement in another room. Panicked, I grabbed my phone, bolted out the door, and sprinted down the block calling 911. The police arrived minutes later but found no one. Thinking back, I believe he was scouting for EA. See targets, saw I was tired and drunk, and played along as the delivery guy. He likely waited outside listening, then entered once I passed out. Had I not woken up in time, I don't think I'd be alive to tell this story. Story 3, by Victoria M. She thought she was finally getting a neighbor in her empty apartment complex, but the man next door had broken in and was waiting for her to step inside. In mid-2019, I moved to a new town for work. With little money, I found the cheapest apartment available, a one-bedroom unit in a small, old 4-unit complex. The area wasn't nice, and for 3 months, I was the only tenant living there. Work consumed my life. Late nights, overtime, constant stress. My apartment was just a place to sleep. One evening, after returning home around 8 p.m., a sudden knock startled me. Peering through the peephole was useless. It was stained, so I opened the door. An older man, late 40s, with unsettling eyes, stood uncomfortably close. He simply asked if I lived there. I said yes. Smiling oddly, he claimed he was moving into the next-door unit and wanted to introduce himself. He never gave a name and just walked into the supposed unit. It was a relief knowing someone else was moving in, or so I thought. The next evening, while walking up the outdoor stairs, I noticed blinds shifting in that same unit, as if someone was watching me. Seconds after entering my apartment, another knock came. Opening the door, I found the same man. I asked what he needed. He claimed he couldn't figure out how to use the thermostat and wanted help. It seemed harmless, so I explained the buttons, but he insisted I step inside and show him. Something felt off, but he pressured me, so I reluctantly agreed. As I reached his doorway, I froze. The unit was completely empty. No furniture, no boxes, not even cleaned. A foul smell seeped out. I knew instantly no one had rented this place. The man's demeanor shifted darkly. He urged me to come in, stepping closer aggressively. I bolted, running to my unit and locking the door. Seconds later, the handle rattled violently. I called the PO. Lice. He paused, using a fake friendly tone to coax me out, knocking a few more times before finally leaving. When officers arrived, they confirmed my fear. The unit was still vacant. The man had broken in, been living there, and had likely been watching me for days, learning my schedule. If I had stepped inside that apartment, I doubt I'd be alive. I moved out immediately.